Hiya, I'm your host Terry J. Aman, and welcome to this, my 13th ever episode of VideoFuzzy, the video based on episode 103 of VideoFuzzy titled Rubicon. I had a lot of good material to choose from in highlighting production this time. I countered 2010's trippy, weird summer series Persons Unknown, a bunch of first and second season Supernaturals. I was very excited at the appearance of the Dream Lord episode in Doctor Who. Certain would be the feature this time. But then I popped disc 1873 into the player, and my jaw slackened. A series of context-free vignettes cross our screen. A stately mansion, a woman in the garden, an elder statesman receives a 4-leaf clover in his morning mail. As calmly as we've seen him do everything else, he retreats to his study, places a pistol to the side of his head, and fires. Scene shifts to an aggressively nondescript workspace somewhere in New York where preternaturally perspicacious minds gather daily to sift through bales of data primarily focused on finding patterns instilled, overt, implicit, hidden, intended, discerned, intuited. Welcome to Rubicon. The world of this show is a world in which top-level spycraft is carried out in ciphers and clues, communicated through classified ads and crossword puzzles, planes crash, covers blown. Just the subtlest hint at the fourth equipotent brand of the American government triggers suicides, train crash. One of the few people capable of grasping the moment of that message, targeted, killed, made to look like an accident. Will's boss. Our story centers on James Badge Dale's intelligence functionary Will Travers, a man who lost his wife and child in the towers in 9/11. He's actively uninterested in life much anymore, just wants to use his unusually intuitive gifts to counter terrorist activity, to stop this chaos and destruction. By the end of the series, you feel the world would be worse if these exact people weren't involved in doing just that. Will's been busy with crosswords and major papers his vision calls indicators, takes his finding to his somewhat debilitatingly superstitious boss, his father-in-law, Peter Garrity, or David Hadass, who apparently dismisses them. But between Hadass and his somehow even more paranoid supervisor, Arliss Coward, is Cale Ingram, they affirm Will's insight into, rather it has to be set, tenuous clues, indicating legislative, executive, and judicial branches, then highlighting a shadowy fourth branch. They determine some editor somewhere didn't expect the pattern to be caught or didn't care if it was. Will Travers, his coworkers at the agency, respect his work and treat him with kid gloves because of his loss. Anything he can do to thwart terrorism, he will. But this isn't the running around doing things of 24, and it's not the U.S. network's rambunctious spycraft of burn notice. This is mission-focused brains of the broken. No one's minds can focus at this level of attention. No, Will perceives a universe where everything will explode and kill us, just well enough to keep it from doing so. Will's boss, agency lead David Hadass, whose own unique talents for resolving patterns splash over to superstition, cannot abide a 13 or any multiple of it. When a cleaner brushed his shoe with his broom, David had to buy it from him and hang it on the wall, or it'd be 10 years bad luck. He's otherwise pleasant enough, of course, and it's Will's last surviving connection to his daughter and grandchild. He holds him in fond esteem. David also understands Will's intention to resign, in fact, encourages it, buys Will a motorcycle for his birthday, which Will had forgotten, and encloses a note with the keys to go to run far away. The work is draining, and his heart isn't in it, like vinegar on your teeth. Will's coworkers would be fine. David would keep the office going. Just meet him at the train station the following day for a debriefing. Which doesn't happen. The next morning, David is killed in a train crash. One of 36 fatalities, apparently tragic accident. Will is still planning to resign, is approached by the director Ingram at David's service. Ingram's David, one of the only people in the world who can do the work the position demands. Now he's dead. Well, he understands Will's intention to resign, but please think about it for a few days. Okay, well, that sounded like a job offer. Next few days is spent in legitimate investigation mode. Will takes a call at David's phone, intoning Knight to King's Bishop 3. Sounds like an early move. Will finds a chess match in progress underneath a wooden globe, a board inscribed with the legend, "From one plan to another, E.B." Will use what knowledge he has of David's life to track down Roger Robinson as Ed Bancroft, a genius, brain-broken recluse. Will goes to him and talks to him about David, what he was doing, what he was up to. Ed dismisses him, but allows how he could have been targeted. Will goes to the train station, finds some poorly choreographed scene direction. David's vehicle is still there, parked in the 13th slot. It wasn't just to be counted from one direction or another, it was literally numbered 13. It is impossible that David would ever have parked his car there. Still, Will is on his way to Director Ingram's office to submit his resignation, to the horror of multiple coworkers. Tanya and Miles call him out directly. They do not want work for their other next-in-line colleague, Grant. And I did not catch which one word convinces him not to, but Will changes his mind as he's handing his resignation to Ingram. Ingram thinks and tells him to head upstairs. Agency head Truxton Spangler is going to want to give him his new clearances. Will takes a brutalist elevator to a low, broad, TARDIS blue space inspired by nothing but much as David Lynch, populated by a single security guard, Barry, who walks Will through his new security protocols. Spangler was called to Washington in the wake of Tom Rumer's suicide, the elderly gentleman at the top of the episode. And you seem to be responding to the same intelligence Will had passed on to David. This is difficult. I can't really convey what it is about this show that I love so much. I feel like it was a show that was written, cast, and directed specifically for me to enjoy, and it has the single-season pedigree to show for it. It's so subtle. Pilot episodes, you've heard me say this before, a lot of work building their universe. You have time for subtle. Yeah, this is how information is going to be conveyed. There's space. There's breadth. There's so much beige. It feels like a tech thriller from the 1950s where, look, the advent of fiber optics, digital encoding, and Wi-Fi, nothing needed to be printed anymore. Serious people staring at newsprint for hours trying to figure out which overseas college would foment a rebellion is outrageous when you'd mostly just have officers on the ground developing contacts and seeing what's going to happen. Idea, unrest in a distant college campus or intelligence secured in an Iranian wedding would cause a man to commit suicide on the other side of the world, or uncover a bomb plot, or destabilize world markets. That's Ian Fleming, John le Carré stuff. Production-wise, it reminds me anachronistically enough of the AMC presentation of Cold War spy thriller miniseries The Ipcris File from 3 years back. The notion that the world is a largely stable and coordinated system of systems, and you can interpret crossword clues in major newspapers to figure out what's going on when information travels at the speed of light. I mean, don't get me wrong, is incredibly comforting to think that impossibly intelligent and intuitive people are responsible for keeping us safe, particularly when you see American war plans shared on commercial chat board apps. The Secretary of Homeland Security doesn't know what habeas corpus is or why it's important, and saying, oh, everyone just got fired from the National Security Council recently. I gotta say, this quaint little show with its chess moves and crossword puzzles and perceptive, hyper-vigilant, extraordinarily intelligent people looking out for us is exactly the right speed for me right now. Looking over my notes as I took them, this show operates in data points of subtle significance. Newspaper, chess ciphers, crossword puzzles, the spare haunting piano score, David's charming affability juxtaposed with his hyperactive brain, the million cross-currents it navigated. First time this occurred to me in the space of 15 years, but David's obvious affection for Will, and then his death so close to Will's birthday, and that's just another cratering loss of stable connection in this life to heedless, howling terrorism, entirely free of meaning. His life's work is a desperate search for order in a chaotic, destructive world. What it did do, for me anyway, is get me hooked. I love this take on this story, and I'm so happy to encounter it here again, and look forward to watching the stories of these silent, poignant lives spent in service and protection unfold in my collection. Thank you, AMC.